Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the USA Gymnastics claimants versus the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Second segment, we're going to be talking golf. Jason, the only thing better than golf wear is the money in golf, and it's unfortunate that neither one of us can hit a ball worth a damn on off of a tee, because there's some serious coin in play for Phil Mickelson and company. Now, there's been a bit of a kerfuffle, frankly, regarding a few players, because there's going to be a new tour basically backed by Saudi Arabia, and it's basically a group of 17, chiefly among them Phil Mickelson, Justin Johnson, and Lee Westwood and Sergio Garcia. Now, I'm quoting PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan wrote a memo to the tour's membership. These players have made their choice for their own financial-based reasons. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan wrote an amendment to the tour's membership, but they can't demand the same PGA Tour membership benefits, considerations, opportunities, and platform as you. That expectation disrespects you, our fans, and our partners. You have made a different choice, which is to abide by the tournament regulations you agreed to when you accomplished the dream of earning a PGA Tour card, and more importantly, to compete as part of the preeminent organization in the world of professional golf. Monahan wrote that any players who take part in future LIV Golf events will face the same punishment. Now, Jason, what are some of your initial thoughts about the stance that the PGA Tour commissioner is making regarding these players like Phil Mickelson signing on for another league, basically?
Yeah, I started hearing rumblings of what LIV Golf even was, LIV or whatever it is, the Saudi Arabian-backed organization. I heard some Hall of Fame tennis people talking bad about it, like Martina Navratilova, for example. And then shortly after, I hear the PGA is going to suspend any player involved in this previous tournament they just had recently, the LIV. If they were going to suspend any PGA players who participate in this tournament, the LIV tournament that happened, I believe, in London. And 17 players, some of the ones you mentioned, were in it. And the PGA said, well, okay, you made your choice. You're suspended. And apparently that suspension is indefinitely, no set time frame on when they can come back. But basically, they can't be a part of any PGA event ever until that suspension is lifted. So technically, it could be forever. But I also was kind of wondering too, what like kind of what you're asking, what really is the big deal for the PGA as to why they're making such a big deal about these guys being in this tournament? Well, so I was curious about, okay, did they break some rules or anything? And basically what it was is these players involved, they didn't receive the necessary conflicting event and media rights releases, quote unquote, or they didn't apply for them at all, according to, again, the PGA commissioner guy. Yes, I said commissioner guy. So that's what it was. So I guess some of them applied for it. Either they got denied or didn't get a decision at all, or they didn't apply for it at all. So, I mean, per the letter of the rule, I guess that's what it is. Then the PGA Tour had no choice but to do what they did. I mean, if it'd be one thing if it was one person doing it, you may be able to let something slide. But when 17 people essentially, I have to say outright defiantly, decided, hey, I'm going to go be in this tournament no matter what, which is probably for the money, which we'll get into later. But it's really interesting, though, that you would think that these guys wouldn't risk messing up their status with the PGA Tour, because that's obviously the big league, we'll say, of golf in the United States. Now, also to that point, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, if any golfers or golf fans are out there, let us know. I don't think there is any other organization for golf here in the United States. I think it's just a PGA, and that's pretty much it. So it's kind of like they were monopolizing the golf scene. And here comes the LIV or LIV, And here's a whole other opportunity for these golfers to compete. I don't want to say on a high level because it's still a new league, but you can still compete against other great golfers. I mean, you just mentioned 17 of them here from the PGA, not to mention whoever else from around the world is going to be there at the LIV. So I get it on both sides. I get why the PGA had to suspend them, but I get why the guys still wanted to defy that and go play somewhere else. Now, there has been some criticism of the golfers who did this, and it kind of is based off something we talked about before in episode 41, talking about Amazon guilt. Now, obviously, these players don't really have a whole lot of guilt because they still played in the tournament. But what are your initial thoughts about all this before I go into the whole money side of things?
Well, my initial thought is there absolutely is going to be a lot of consternation by anything that's backed by Saudi Arabian money. There's a money component of this. One, the free enterprise person in me says, "Hey, get your money, but don't fuck up the existing money." And I think one, if they're going to be in bed with Saudi Arabian money, then they have to take the heat that comes with that. I mean, Phil Mickelson, for Christ's sake, has been accused by like 9/11 families of being basically a traitor to his country. I don't know if I want to go that far, but surely he had to know that there were going to be some complications with going down this path. Also, really interesting, Greg Norman, yes, that Greg Norman, the shark, is the CEO of this league.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. So this isn't just some run of the mill deal. And they had 17 of the best players in the world defect. I feel like we're talking the Hunter Red October here. But when you have 17 players, they either waited to be suspended, or some of them, in some cases, they resigned ahead of time. It's like, you can't fire me, I quit. Can I keep the pen? So it's messy. It's messy, Jason. That's really my thought. It's like Phil Mickelson is a very astute businessman, as are the other 17 gentlemen that made this decision. Will it work out financially for them in the short term? Probably. It's a lot of money.
Well, I'd say what. So, just when it comes to the money part, I'll go ahead and jump into that first. So, yeah, there's definitely a huge difference in money just from this one tournament. The winner, oh, no, I'll come back to that. The guy who came in last place for a weekend of work got $120,000. 48th place, you got 120 grand for 3 days of work or 4, whatever it is. Not bad. There's people. I think the average income in the United States for the annual income is like 30,000 or 40,000. So for a whole year. So hey, that's pretty good. The winner got 4 million. Yeah, $4 million. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So definitely from that aspect, it's definitely worth it. There's some of the bigger names that we talked about that actually joined this. Justin Johnson, I think, did the best. He came in 8th place and got 625,000. So that's pretty good there, I'd say. Phil Mickelson came in 33rd place, or tied for 33rd. He got 146 grand. So again, not bad. Even if as long as you finish in the top 3, you're walking away with at least $1 million. So that's not bad. So that alone makes it worth it, leaving the PGA. I mean, Phil Mickelson, he's won plenty. He's 6-time major winner in the in the PGA Tour, excuse me, and he's won his Masters. I think he got 2, maybe 3 now. I don't know. He's obviously aging. Of course, he can still win in the PGA, but what's probably a possible thought? Let me get as much money as I can while my body's still physically able to still do this. So he saw that $4 million to win. He said, why not? Now, to kind of go into what Terrence was mentioning with the like Saudi Arabian families, or rather the 9/11 families are saying about Phil Mickelson and probably the other golfers too, is obviously when we talk about Saudi Arabia, the perception over here at the very least is that they have a lot of human rights issues, to say the least. And So obviously, it can be looked at very easily by you accepting the money that's coming from them, that you're essentially okay with what's going on in Saudi Arabia, even though verbally, at least Phil Mickelson himself has said, "Yeah, I'm playing against an event, but that doesn't mean that I'm for all the human rights stuff, which I'm against." And again, we've even talked about this in the show. Is like, can you say you're against something while doing something towards the opposite? And that's what people were calling these guys out for. That they're again, not just Mickelson, but a lot of them were saying, "Hey, I don't want to compete. Or rather, I don't agree with these human rights issues, but I'm basically still going to take their money." So that's what people were calling them out for that. So Terrence, when I read about all the money that was won here, I think it was like, you can do the math. It's all the breakdown of what everybody won. I'll find it on bosshunting.com, so you guys can check that out there. But Terrence, what do you think about all that money that I even just briefly mentioned, but then also the criticism those guys are getting for taking the money of the Saudis while claiming to be against the human rights issues taking place over there?
Well, that's the sticky wicket. I think for many of these players, it's about the money. For a guy like Phil Mickelson's like, I'm tired of being middle management. I want to call my own shots. This is probably the closest he ever gonna get to the LeBron type decision.
Well, before you go any further, I do want to point out that I read an article, I believe from NPR, that basically mentioned that him and Dustin Johnson have made between 100 and 200 million so far from golf in their careers. So they're not broke. I do want to point that out. So there are some plenty of golfers out there that struggle and they play just to make a living. Phil Mickelson ain't one of them. So I just want to point that out there. Sorry.
No, I listen. He ain't starving,
Exactly.
but he obviously feels as though if he wants more freedom to do what he wants to do, but at the end of the day, hell, it's not his golf. It's not his golf. It's not his it's not his golf league. It's and what the general feeling that I'm getting from this suspension is basically, don't fuck around and find out. This is very akin to, you're suspending these 17 so that the rest of the PGA Tour doesn't get the idea that it's a free for all. Hundreds of people speed. State trooper, if he or she is lucky, is only going to pluck a couple of you out. Why do you do that? To make an example out of people and to basically showcase that, hey, it's not a free for all. That's what the PGA Tour is doing. The PGA Tour is trying to ensure that there actually is a PGA Tour, as opposed to effectively having major golf turn into a mercenary event. And yeah, he's hitting these. I say I'm referring to the commissioner. The PGA leadership, the brass, they're hitting him where it hurts. Phil Mickelson might be one. He can't talk about it because it's not in his best interest to talk about it. Best thing he's do is no comment. But all of those primetime players, especially guys that have actually won a U.S. Open or won a Masters, and feel like they got something else in the tank and they might be in the running again, that green jacket means something. Those major events mean something. The Grand Slams in every major sporting event league mean something. And frankly, that's all the PGA has. That's their one chip. That is their one chip. Listen, you guys, have as much fun as you want. Your ass won't be at this event. We'll crown someone else. It'll be someone else's day. It won't be yours.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the PGA is saying, but I'm also kind of wondering too. I mean, it's interesting to see if any more players, now that we've seen what happens, now that the tournament's happened, now that they've won their money, people can see what money they won, and now those players know, okay, if I decide at this point to go to the playing the LIV, I know what the punishment's going to be. It's going to mean that means I'm banned from the PGA. So, like you said, it's that balance. Is me going to play for this LIV tournament worth the money, knowing that I can't potentially go back to play in the PGA? Because one thing I was mentioning, there was an article that I found too. They mentioned that Tiger Woods said, "I'm not playing in the LIV." You would almost think that, like Mickelson, he'd be one of the people that will jump right over to LIV to make the last bit of money he can from golf before he retires. But he still has things to play for, whether it's realistic or not. He has things left to still accomplish, potentially as far as all-time records to accomplish in the PGA. And it's not just about the Masters, obviously. It's about any majors at all, trying to catch, the record there, which, again, probably is impossible. But him going to LIV will basically be him giving up on that for the money, which, and I probably shouldn't say just for that. But I'd be interested to see that. Who's going to leave now that all the cards on the table, one side's the money, one side's suspension, which one are you going to go towards? And I agree with you. That's going to be more about, people figuring out, okay, I got more to do here at the PGA. I'm not messing that up yet. Or I've already done what I need to do. I'm trying to get that paper. Case in point, by these 48 people, which all of them obviously weren't from the PGA, but basically these 48 people were doing this because of the money. Probably more so the guys from the PGA knowing they're going to face some kind of punishment. And now they don't know what it is. They're banned, essentially, from playing in the PGA. But at the same time, right now it may not matter because there's another tournament coming up here in the United States. I forgot to remind myself when that was, but they're doing another tournament. And especially if you're these last 48 guys, knowing you got that sweet paycheck from 4 days or 3 days of work, you're probably looking forward to doing it again. Especially if you're that guy that won $4 million. Because even if you win half of that in your next one, guess what? You just won $6 million.
Right.
In 2 tournaments.
Right. But I also think it will be interesting to see what this money will look like next year.
And I guess that's the important thing because, like I was mentioning earlier, there really wasn't any competition, any realistic competition available to these players in the United States besides the PGA. Now there's another option. And I know you're not as big a fan as I am of this, but it's much like when AEW came around in professional wrestling 3 years ago. Fans are ready for another option that wasn't the WWE. Now, obviously, I personally am not a golf fan, but I have to imagine as a golf fan, you're probably going to have at least a little bit of growing interest in this LIV tournament the longer it plays around. Again, this is just tournament 2 or tournament 1 that happened. Like I said, tournament 2 is coming up already. There's going to be 3, 4, 5, whatever. Have an off season, then year 2. People that love it and want it, who want more of it, they're going to be starved from it for those amount of months, and it's going to come back. They're going to tell all their buddies about it. Hey, man, you haven't checked this out. This is so cool. Something else is not PGA. I know that there's a breakdown of all the rules differences and stuff like that, so I have to imagine there's some kind of difference to make it interesting for the players and the fans. So I agree with you. We'll see where this is at next year from now when we're doing, episode next year, episode 113, whenever we're doing that, I guess I did math, sir. I did math. But yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing that, but also looking forward to seeing any movement on what the punishments are for these players. If there's anything definite, like this is your indefinite suspension, or is it you're suspended for a year, or you're just done, period, for life. So,
gotcha. All right. That concludes our segment on Club LIV. See what we did there. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Draymond Green and his thoughts on the 80s and 90s.